Welcome everybody. We're up to Shani. Can you show where we are in Mesilat Yesharim? We're on chapter 22, talking about the crown jewel of all the good attributes, which is humility. Now, how are you humble? He said to review. The Ramchal said we have to be humble the way we think, the way we act, and the way we talk. Parenthetically, Chacham Ben Sion Abba Shaul brings from the Zohar and from the Arizal, Kabbalistically, really every mitzvah you have to do on these three levels. It's Keneged Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, the three parts of your soul. So that's why, like, even when you honor your parents, you have to do it b'machashava. You should think they're prominent people. You should talk to them like you're talking to a king, you know? And you should also, obviously, action is the whole, right? So really, like Shabbat also. Right, really, Kabbalistically, every mitzvah, you have to fulfill it on three levels, right? Machashava, Dibur, Ma'aseh, which means in with your mind and you're psychologically thinking about the mitzvah the right way, talking about the mitzvah. So now, Natan, do you have it? B'diburo, Amru Chazal, Lo'olam yeh diburo shel adam min hatim aberiot. Chachamim say, how are you practically humble with people? One of the hallmarks of knowing if somebody's humble is that he should talk calmly with people, right? It's really, really frustrating when you deal with some people that are yelling and screaming. They make everybody they make everybody meshuga like themselves. And actually, the wisest of all men in Kohelet, chapter 9, Halacha Yud Zayin, says, Divrei Chachamim benachat nishma'in, right? Chachamim, when they are reprimanded, again, me and him were talking about, unfortunately, people talking during shul. It's honestly, if they would have realized 1/1,000,000th of how terrible it is to talk in the middle of davening and Torah and Tefillah, they would probably go on Ta'anit Dibur anytime they're in shul. But ultimately speaking, we have to know people accept when you attack them, then they get defensive, right? So how Divrei Chachamim benachat nishma'in means people listen to the Chachamim, to wise people when they're talked to and calmly, right? Sarich sheyeh devarav divrei kavod. You always have to respect people. Never denigrate anybody. Velo divrei bizayon, right? If you embarrass and denigrate them, that obviously shows that you're not humble. V'chen hu omer, baz l'reu chaser lev. In Mishlei 11, Shlomo HaMelech in Pasuk 12 says, somebody that ridicules people and makes fun of them, he's missing a heart. You know, he's heartless. The Omer Bevo Rasha Gambuz. You know, evil people are always like treating people like dirt and garbage. Sadiqim and Chasidim, they see the godliness thing, right? Everybody has a neshama, even Goy has a neshama. So we have to be respectful to people and not, chas v'shalom, ridicule them. Next paragraph, b'halichato. Now, there's another way that your anava comes out, the way you walk. So it says in the Gemara Sanhedrin, this is actually a hallmark, a very classical and fundamental Gemara, Peichet in the Bavli, Amud Bet, Shalchu mitam ezo ben olam haba. Who's a person that has the passport to go to heaven, right? They're going to let him in. So the Gemara says, criteria number 1, anvanatan. He's very humble. Shafal berech. He thinks lowly of himself. He doesn't. Shayef ayal, shayef nafak. You know, some people, when they come into a room or into a shul or into a social hall, it's like a storm has entered, right? It's like a hurricane happened. Oh, Richard John, But he's saying, okay, I'm not saying necessarily that person may be a big tzaddik and a good person, but people that are calm, cool, collected, honestly, they're modest, they're not trying to grab the attention of everybody, which is also part of Gava, right? Everybody bow down to me. Everybody look at my Gucci, Versace, my, show off. Guys, we have to understand the real beauty. We Jews believe the real beauty of a person is from his neshama, from inside, right? Not showing off. So it says, to go ahead, V'lo yelech b'koma zekufa v'lo b'chfudut gadol ekev b'sad ekev. If he walks and like in a big shot, his chest is up, like he owns the place, that's not a good sign. You should walk humbly. By the way, if on a daily or weekly basis you want to get injected with, the Ramban has a beautiful letter of how to be humble. He wrote to his son, right? Igeret Ramban that talks about Shma Mini Musar Avicha. He also starts that letter, Titanek Tamid, Ledaber Lechol Adam, Bechol Shah Bechol Et. You should talk to everybody, from the president and the king till this lowliest garbage picker and janitor, calmly and respectfully. Don't get angry at people, right? Ela kederech kol holech la'asakav. Just like a person is rushing into his office, into his business, into thing, that's a right way to walk. But don't walk into the thing like, you're Mr. Big Shot. That's not appropriate. The Gemara says in Kiddushin, Lamed Aleph, if somebody walks into walks on the street anywhere with a very his chin is high and he's chest is full and he owns the place, right? He walks gaivadik. It's like he's kicking God's presence away from him, right? And it's not good. Beshifto. Now another manifestation, another category of a person that has to reflect that he's humble. I'll tell you an amazing story about this, actually, about the Chavetz Chaim's greatest student. He says, a person is a Bal Gava, even without them honoring him, he's going to want to go sit in the front seat, the VIP sitting of the shul or the Beit Midrash, like he owns the place. A person that's Anava is low profile. You know what low profile means? He's modest. So I'll tell you an amazing story. The Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman, which was one of the great Gedolim, actually there's a yeshiva here in LA, or Elchanan is named after him. It originally wasn't a Chabad yeshiva. Did you know that? Yeah. It was a Litvish yeshiva, Rab Simcha Wasserman, which was also one of the last people alive that had seen the Chavetz Chaim was Rab Simcha Wasserman. And he was the first person that actually did Kiruv here, besides Chabad. So Rabbi Dr. Fox, a lot of the people were students of him. The real LA people from the 50s, 60s and 70s. So anyways, Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman was one of the great Rosh Yeshivas of Baranovich and one of the great Gedolim, the great Rosh Yeshivas of the last 100 years. He would go to the yeshiva Torah. He would obviously, no money, you can't have a yeshiva in Kamach and Torah. So he would constantly come a few times a year to New York to raise money, to Manhattan and everywhere. So every time he would come, where was his shul that he would daven in? In the yeshiva Torah Vadas, right? Rab Shraga ben Delovich's, the Rav Shlomo Hyman was. It's like this is the first real yeshiva of New York that didn't have any secular studies, right? Torah Vadas is Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky was the Rosh Yeshiva there. It's a very chashuv yeshiva. So every time he would walk in the room, he would sit at the back. So anytime the gabbai of the yeshiva, the mashkiach of the yeshiva would take his hand, he said, "You're the Gadol Ador. You have to sit in front next to the Rosh Yeshiva." So this happened like a dozen times. They said, "Baba John, After a dozen times, automatically, why every time you come in the room, you go to the back seat? We have to go through the hassle of bringing you and sitting you. So he said no. He said, I asked my Rebbe Chavetz Chaim what I should do. So the Chavetz Chaim said, your conduct is the right way, hashkafically, according to Da'at Torah, the knowledge of Torah. He says, if they want to force you, compel you to sit in the front, that's their problem. But you could insist on always going to the back. You don't have to automatically, go to the front. And it just shows you that, actually I was talking, me and Ruben we're talking a lot about, you know what, it hit me like a lightning bolt actually today. I don't want to attack anybody. We're just reading that Divrei Chachamim benachat nishmain, right? If you want people to accept your words, you have to be calm and not like our good friend RM, the famous YouTube rabbi. Sometimes, but I just want to let you know that, the Gra Zal, Rabbi Eliyahu Vilna, based on the Zohar, says the whole reason, he says there's two things. Tefillah has two goals. Did you know this famous Gra? It's brought down in Evan Shlema. There's two goals in Tefillah. One is them to actually make you humble. That's why the most common word in Shemona Esrei is Ata, which means the Baal Gava, the person that has Gava, thinks he's the focus of the world. Everybody should be honoring him. Everybody should be singing my praises. Everybody should be bowing down to me, right? Gava is narcissism. Narcissism is Gava. It's all the same, different tentacles of the same evil octopus, poisonous octopus, right? When we daven, we should say, we're saying, blessed are you, Hashem. You're the source of all my power. You're the source of all my health. Right? See, subconsciously, actually, if you actually daven this way, it's very powerful. It does make you enough, right? Because it makes you less self-centered and narcissistic and more focused on Hashem. Now, here's the problem. People that talk during davening, they've missed the boat. Because when you come, it shows you're not respecting Hashem. Right? You're saying my words are more important, right? Basically, the second goal of tefillah, the Gra says, is to do teshuvah. Because again, tefillah is like a korban. You're becoming close to Hashem. Korban, the shorsh of the root, is becoming close to Hashem. That's going to be in our third class, in the Divrei Torah on the Parsha. But what I'm trying to tell you guys is that it's very, very important. The reason why it's such a terrible crime to talk in the shul during prayer and Torah and Tefillah is because you're doing the antithesis. When you come to the shul, that's like a laboratory of, should make us what we're learning here, into a humble person. But when you disrespect the Tefillah and it's more important for you to schmooze about the Lakers or the Bakers or Team USA winning the gold or whatever, it shows you that you're not focusing on Hashem. You're still focusing on your own nonsense. You understand? You see this insight I had? You liked it? Mm-hmm. So it's but the bottom line here is that the Ramchal, let's just do a few more lines in the Ramchal and we'll call it a day. He says, "Vehu gam ken mikra maleh al tehader lifnei hamelech v'gedolim talmud." Shlomo HaMelech, the wisest of all men, says, "Don't show off in front of the king. The king is the king. He's the highest, most respectable person. So don't try to, stolen valor. Like try to outbeat him. And when there's great people, don't go and unfortunately, it's a sad thing, but we have it in our own Persian community also. Some people are just so hungry for attention and everybody to respect them and to show off. That's why they spend $1 million on their weddings, and then the kids ended up getting divorced within a day, or God forbid, a year. Chas v'shalom. We've seen it time and time. After being my father's Zatzal, being a great community leader, and me being a rabbi, I'm going into my 22nd year this fall. It's sad. People, So he says, "Ki tov amar lecha alei neim shalcha nidiv asher ro enecha." He says, Shlomo Melech is giving, the wisest of all men is giving you good advice. He says it's much better to be low profile, to be humble. That shows that you have goodness of heart, right? Not to be the big shot of the room and go try to show off in front of the king and try to outshine all the rich and wealthy people. And Hashem Shetaka help us to know that to be a real Anav takes a lifetime of work. But after all of our tefillah and mitzvot, right, there's always a goal, by the way. So a lot of people don't realize this. When we do the Taryag mitzvot, it's supposed to take us, it's like a tunnel that should take us, like how you get on a train, it should take you from point A to point B. All the mitzvahs and Torah you do is to make you fear Hashem, to love Hashem. And the final byproduct that the Torah's, right, just like when you put a non-carat gold into the crucible to get pure gold, right, to make the best silver. So you're trying to manufacture something grand and beautiful and glorious and wonderful. All of the Torah and the mitzvahs, right, the whole enchilada is about a product coming, a mensch. And this man should be somebody that's modest, humble, not like what we see how Hollywood people that are really hevune dopa, that are the polar opposite of everything we learned till now. They want to show off, they want to be the center of attention, they want to project themselves. So that's the antithesis of everything we're about. The greatest of all men, again, I'll say it for the 1,000th time, is Moshe Rabbeinu. And when Hashem wants to ta'arif, when Hashem wants to boast and speak about the greatness of Moshe, he says, Anav Mikol Adam. He was the most humble and modest and low profile of all men.